Miss Sewing here. Let's finish up the war in Vietnam today by taking a look at what Richard Nixon was up to during this time period. Our central question is, how does the Vietnam War end? And that's what we'll be answering in today's video. We'll be taking a look at three different things today. First, we'll look at Nixon's plan called Vietnamization. Then we'll talk about the fall of Saigon and what signals the end of the war in Vietnam. And then we'll finish up by talking about the Pentagon Papers. So quick refresher, we're looking at Nixon today. He is the president that is president when Vietnam comes to an end. He's a Republican, and if you remember, we have talked about him before. So we have talked about Nixon and how he quit the presidency. He's the only guy to quit. That is because he was responsible for the Watergate break-in, which when it comes out causes a lot of chaos and forces him to leave the office so he doesn't get impeached. All right, so Nixon, when he's running for president, he runs with what he calls a secret plan to end the war in Vietnam. He wasn't very forthcoming or obvious about what that plan was. He just kind of asked people to trust him. And part of this plan is called Peace with Honor. So it's basically a way of, kind of just like it sounds, like how do we get out of this war, this very messy war in Vietnam? How do we create peace with some dignity? As the United States, how do we keep our clout? How do we keep our power and our influence at the same time? Now, here's what actually happened. So he runs on this plan, this secret plan, to have some, as it says here, peace with honor. But the reality is not quite so honorable. What actually happened is while Nixon was talking out of one side of his mouth, right, he was actually secretly expanding the war into two other countries. So he was expanding the Vietnam War into Laos here and Cambodia. Now, why these two countries? Well, look at the geography. Right here is what is now the country of Vietnam. It would have been separated into two, into North and South Vietnam, and these countries are directly to the left. And so what we did during this time was bomb these supply routes that were running through Laos and through Cambodia that was assisting the North Vietnamese. And finally, this vocab word, Vietnamization. So Vietnamization is the official plan or policy that Nixon has once he gets into office, what he is doing. And very simply, the plan is, let's reduce or lower the number of US troops. This is called a reduction in force. Let's take Americans out of Vietnam, and let's increase the power and ability of South Vietnam to fight its own wars. So Nixon's plan, he's got visible plans, he's got secret plans, he has behind the scenes plans, but one thing that he does execute is getting troops out of Vietnam because the war is coming to a close and it's clear that we are losing. And that brings us to the fall of Saigon. Now, Saigon was the capital of South Vietnam. So once this Vietnamization plan gets put into effect, Americans leave Vietnam, South Vietnam is left to fight its own battle, and it falls. So North Vietnam captures Saigon, captures the capital, and that signals the end of the Vietnam War. Vietnam is then unified as one communist country. So like we said, the Vietnam War is a long one, it's a complicated one, and it's a war we end up losing, and South Vietnam is not victorious. And that brings me here. So we talked about this in class if you were with us. We talked briefly about the Pentagon Papers and this guy named Daniel Ellsberg, who we would call a whistleblower. He's someone that basically snitched on the government. He leaked or gave up top secret documents painting this history of US involvement in Vietnam. He gave that to reporters at the New York Times. So these documents are called the Pentagon Papers. And what these documents did was prove that for not just the presidency of Richard Nixon, but with Lyndon Johnson, John F. Kennedy and Eisenhower, guys we haven't gotten to yet. Government officials have been lying about our involvement in Vietnam since the start. The whole time, Americans were told one thing and something completely different was happening. So this is a big leak. This shocked many people. And one of the big effects is it's going to increase the anti-war movement, which we'll talk about next time. And people, especially college students, people who would be fighting that war, start to realize what's going on and say that this isn't right. It's also going to lower our trust in the government, right? Which is natural if the government's been saying one thing for years and years and years, and then we figure out that's not quite true. Lots of people are going to start to wonder what else they are hiding from us. And so with that, guys, we're going to finish up today. Make sure that your video notes are completed before you turn them in on Google Classroom. And I'll see you guys next time for more on the anti-war student movement.